Good evening, everyone. This is my story for World Book Night 2020. It's a book published in 2018 and it's become one of my favourite children's books. It's called Little Red Riding Hood and it tells a story in rhyme, and it shows us the importance of stories and how stories have the power to change people. So here goes. Little Red Riding Hood loved reading books, always curled up inside crannies and nooks. She read in the bathroom, she read on the porch, she read late at night by the light of a torch. Flicking through pages, her little head bowed, dreaming up stories and laughing out loud. Look at this lovely illustration. Oh, sorry, the light. There we go. But one day her mother said, "What a to-do. Read this old library book's long overdue. You must take it back to the library today. But listen, I've something important to say. Don't ever stray from the path in the wood." "Yes, Mum," said Red, and she pulled up her hood. As Red skipped along, it was lovely and sunny, but suddenly Red felt a little bit funny. A wolf jumped in front of her. Gruffly he said, "Where are you taking that book, Little Red?" "The library," she answered, "to hand it back in." "Oh," said the wolf, and he started to grin. The wolf licked his lips and he had a good hunch that Little Red Riding Hood might do for lunch. He thought, "She looks tasty, a flavoursome treat, and maybe I'll read her book after I eat." The wolf had a plan, so he said with a smile, "But why don't you stay here and read for a while?" Red was quite tempted. Her book was so good, so she strayed from the path and she sat in the wood. 10 minutes, she said, as she started to read, and off ran the wolf at a lightning fast speed. Now, books have all sorts of strange magical powers, and that afternoon, Red was reading for hours. The magic of books. You can read for longer than you ever imagine. Meanwhile at the library, what a barbarian. Wolf had tied up Mrs. Jones, the librarian. He put on her glasses, her colourful smock, and said to himself, "Red is in for a shock." A few moments later, Red opened the door. "Come in," said the wolf, with a wave of his paw. Little Red Riding Hood put her book down and looked at the wolf with a bit of a frown. Red gasped, "What big eyes?" And then Wolf, with a sneer, said, "Yes, all the better for reading, my dear." Red said, "Your ears are hairy as well." "And what," asked young Red, "is that terrible smell?" The wolf ripped his smock off and sprang from his seat. "Enough," cried the wolf, "now I'm ready to eat." "You can't eat her up," the librarian blubbered, and with a loud heave she flew out of the cupboard. That's just such an obvious ending," she sighed. "We've heard it before. You could have at least tried." The wolf eats the girl up. "Well, that's nothing new." "What?" The wolf puzzled. "But that's what wolves do. Wolves are the bad guys. It says in my book, Little Red Riding Hood. Give him a look." She sat by the wolf and, despite her unease, said, "Stories can end any way that you please." "You don't like an ending?" Red Riding Hood said. "Then change it, arrange it again in your head. Just switch it and stitch it up some other way." The wolf nodded slowly and whispered, "Okay." Now I'm going to read a few of these mix-ups of stories which Little Red Riding Hood suggests. Just shows how we can change any story if we want to. "A beanstalk grew up from the crack in the floor. Come on," Snow White shouted, "it's time to explore." Peter Pan noticed the fairy dust settle. "And now you can fly," he told Hansel and Gretel. So back in her castle deep under the sea, the mermaid invited the wolf round for tea. Aladdin jumped back and he gave a loud shout as his old fairy godmother tumbled right out. He thought for a moment, "A book of my own, and this time the wolf won't end up all alone." He picked up a book about shoemaking elves, then started to chuckle and search through the shelves. "I found it," he shouted, and danced a few jigs, then borrowed a book about 3 little pigs. Little Red Riding Hood walked through the wood, the moon shining down on her little red hood. She curled up that night with a book in her hands and dreamt of huge dragons and magical lands. For whilst leaving footpaths should never be done, straying from stories is all sorts of fun. Happy Word Book Night from Little Red Riding Hood and me.